Dr. Patty does not come to the class, so instead of him, he sent me the presentation with the video record of the lecture. So what we are gonna do today, we are gonna watch the presentation, and then in the during the presentation, he also included some in-class activity. So he. So maybe I think every 3 to 4 slides. So he put some questions which you as in a group you address to discuss what is the proper answer for that question. So what I will do, I will give you the five minutes to discuss as a group, and then after 5 minutes we're gonna see what is the professor's response. Okay. So as a reminder, everybody sent me the qualities of the good boss, for future boss.
The thing that Patty said is that's
Oh yeah, he said he got that.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah, we'll send this up. Charlie sent us thesis. Charlie, did you send your thesis?
My reference case never gonna happen.
And another important notice is that if you extend for the classes more than four times, I know even though you excused your absence before, but in that case, please contact me or contact the professor. If you guys send me the any written document to prove your absence, then it will be fine. But if you don't give me don't submit any kind of proof, and you're absent for the class more than 3 times, 4 times, I don't know, but we need to check the syllabus. But in that case, you need to contact either me or Dr. Patty. Otherwise, your absence will affect your grade. Okay?
Good morning, class.
Oh my god.
I would say it's live. I was about to show my kids. I thought it was live.
So shook right now.
Pattern of live and
He has a video for you.
Good morning, class.
holy bonkers. We can actually turn it down.
Room, sunny California. Our assignment for homework is to read chapter 7, specifically on Davis-Bacon, for this Friday. And we will be beginning collective bargaining leadership project, which will occur October 23rd, 25th, and 27th, with a handout this Friday on negotiating the labor agreement. This is a project that you will work together in teams to perform. Okay, I want to say another issue on the current affair that we began discussion on Monday. We talked about falsifying of material specifications of Kobe steel. That line is profoundly selfish and squanders vast human resources. It's even deeper than that. It leaves other companies holding the risk if Kobe steel, for example, under multiple market pressures and also under litigation were to go bankrupt. For example, if you used steel or concrete and that material is found to be faulty and your construction is poor, and as a result you go back to the manufacturer and you sue them and they're not able to financially carry the load of whatever the recourse determined by the courts is, then it's very likely that you'll be held responsible as a contractor. So this falsifying of information becomes negligent, it can even become criminally negligent, as some of the examples provide. Okay, so I want to do a video here to begin with that I think is particularly useful for you. But I will do that under separate cover and go on with this discussion and make that separately because I'm not sure how to do it in the context of this presentation. Okay, so today's lecture is going to be on gradients and collective bargaining, and it's lecture 16. Being an example, in order to strike a balance, actually in order to bargain for the health and safety of the employees, the oil, chemical, and plumbing workers demanded that several employers disclose the generic names of chemical substances used or produced, as well as the medical records of employees. The employers refused, claiming that disclosure would both invade the privacy of the employees and compromise trade secrets. With some limitations, the NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, in 1982 held that the employers did not bargain in good faith when they refused to divulge such information. While upholding the union's request, the board asserted that few matters would be of greater concern to employees than exposure. However, the board also ruled that the employers could conceal individual employee identities before turning over the medical records, and also that the managements did not have to disclose the generic names of chemicals that constituted proprietary trade secrets. So the question I'd like you to pause and address as a class is, how do you feel about this NLRB decision?
Okay, so it's time for the discussion. So could you please make a group of students, maybe like around 6, and then think about what could be the potential answer for these questions. So I think that, during the first 10 slides, so I think every first 2 slides talks about the give you some case where you need to think about, and then after the 2 slides, you get this kind of you face this kind of red questions, and this is for you guys, for your discussion. Yeah.
It's just like that.
Somebody was like, where's Shirley's?
I'll just show this.
And the fact that they are.
Today.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the first step is the one that they were.
Because the chemical stuff they're probably medical, probably lawyer. But if it's like, if you know what if it's one of these like tests, like sweet, say like,
Yeah, but I guess at the same time,
Oh no.
So yeah,
As long as the employees know what's. what's in there and then go
Yeah.
Whoa.
It doesn't make sense.
You can seal the.
Let's go down. The photos and logs actually. If it's not here and now we're still in class, how is that not a discussion? Well, I don't know about the better. I'm gonna be surprised though. Okay. So, which group would you like to share what you discussed in the group? Yeah. Okay. Could you tell me?
Oh, yes. They understand this one better.
Yeah, I can share. So I think it's not fair to have medical records disclosed by employees without their consent. But at the same time, with the chemical, in order to tell if the chemicals that were present were causing a detriment to the employee's health, they would need those records. So I think what they should do is they should like consult the employees before turning over their medical records and explain to them that it's a benefit for them to know if their chemicals are causing this health defect.
Yes, that's a great answer. So, but like, so I think, you know, like, I can see that there are two like conflicting like concerns. Like, first one is they're concerned about the like employees' health. So that's why they ask them to like ask the employers to disclose the like other like what kind of chemical components they use, and also like the medical like history of the employees, in the way employees can have a better idea about what could cause their health problem. Right? But at the same time, they said that, but still they don't have to disclose everything. So maybe like it might be important to identify which, like more describe which part they can disclose, which part employers don't have to disclose. But yeah. So let's see the professor's answer.
It seems that the NLRB struck an effective balance between conflicting interests: employers' desire to protect both workers' privacy and trade secrets, and the union's need for material information about the potentially life-threatening work conditions. Okay, another example. This is one dealing with plant management. It's my experience, and also that of many of my colleagues, that as contractors dealing with an owner's, particularly a plant owner's decisions, can often severely impact the safety. In fact, becomes the primary means of improving the total safety of a project, to get the client on board with safety procedures that are necessary to protect the plant as well as the contractor. In this particular case, a chemical company where we were doing several $100 million a year in maintenance and small capital projects, each of which may have been 50 million or so, could not stop the leakage from equipment in about 1,000 square feet of the plant. The chemical was known to produce neural damage if breathed or ingested. After several repeated attempts to stop the leakage failed not by contractor, but by plant personnel, the plant management decided to paint bright pink all of the equipment and supporting structure in the leakage area. This pink color was the same as the leaking agent and done in the attempt to mask leakage. So it wouldn't be visible to people walking through. So what are the liabilities? I'd like you to stop and discuss. What are the liabilities?
Okay. Yeah, it's another discussion. So, what are the liabilities? So, I will give you just like maybe 3 minutes. Maybe we can quickly finish this class. Just think about what kind of like
Yeah, you're responsible for that because you put him in danger.
It's not good.
Joel might just
Stardust too? Yeah. They sold it at Disneyland when my mom was there. I was like, dude, mom, it's so cute. I would very much like this.
Do you go there a lot?
Yes. It's tells you, my aunt and her boyfriend. So I guess you can like check anytime you guys go. Like a lot of times we'll go like on Friday after school, like street kids hang out for a little bit. They like my aunt and they them like a lot of times they look up kids.
That's once a week, at least. Do they have passes in the city? Okay.
Yeah. So like when you get a pass, it's weird for penny. Like they
Do you share it with your family?
yeah.
That's funny. How do they know? Is that loud?
Like
Share it with your family.
oh no. We all have their
Uh,
but there's like family group rates, and then if you're from California, you get like your special,
oh, really?
which is really nice. My uncle who lives in Las Vegas, like he's from here, and like he uses our address. He's trying to figure out a way to get that.
Underground.
Okay, so which group want to like answer the questions? Yeah.
The liabilities are hospital bills. You probably have to throw out all the equipment, so there's a ton of liabilities in replacing that. Future impacts too. We don't know exactly like how much neural damage you can cause, but there are lasting impacts down the line, which can be very expensive. And the appropriate contractor responses to fix the issue, not just hide it and try to get away with it.
Yeah. That's the good answer. So, could you like give me the like summaries of what kind of like liabilities like the contractor has? Like, because to my understanding, like so I think the chemical company, and there are two separate groups, or chemical companies, some kind of like I think the owner or something, and then there's another group which is that is the like contractors to do the maintenance of these kind of things, and then after the several tries to fix the like problem, but they cannot, so that's why the management group asked them to like hide the like this kind of issues by like painting the same color with the chemical. So what do you think about? So what in this case what actions the contractor have to take? You should talk to the plant management team and figure out a solution with them. Yeah. Yes. That is I think that is the answer. Let's see what Dr. Patty says.
The liability is essentially unlimited. Management knowing and deliberately concealing or attempting to conceal risk makes such behavior criminally negligent. Appropriate response is for the contractor to counsel their client, categorically refuse to work in the areas impacted, and require access to be physically constricted to avoid accidental contact. If containment to avoid exposure to contractor personnel is not feasible, inform the client that you will leave the site. Calling motion is the right thing to do. Why would you want to work for a client that exhibits this level of integrity? What else have they or will they do or be likely to do that you don't know about, exposing your workers to such risks? It's time to get your president to call their president and get it resolved quick. In the meantime, a shutdown is appropriate to demonstrate that you really mean it. Okay, another example. Why allow union grievance to win if you're a contractor? It's not unknown for management to allow the union to win a grievance case to bolster the prestige of union leadership in the eyes of union leadership. The state of industrial relations may be improved thereby. When union leaders have confidence in their membership. So my question for discussion is, why does this benefit a contractor?
Yeah, so is there any student who
To answer this kind of questions, what do you think the benefit of the contractors if they allow the union grievance to be?
So, for example, so usually labor, if there's some issues related to the union, then union representative comes to the management group and then asks has some this kind of complaint or something, and then management group allow them to resolve the issues. By doing that, what kind of benefit the contractors may have?
I guess the contractor doesn't have to deal with each individual issue per
Yeah.
se. They kind of just talk to the union
So they
and
can
solve a lot at once.
yes, so they can reduce the future negotiations caused by this kind of labor issues, right? So that's
Okay, my response is that contracts negotiated by a union and grievances settled between union and management need buy-in from the rank and file members. Winning a grievance can increase union membership expectations that their interests are being addressed by the union representatives, thus avoiding extended renegotiations after agreement has been reached between management and labor leaders. Okay, further, a labor union may actually refuse to challenge a management violation of a contract when the employer engages in conduct absolutely essential to the contractor operations. It may be safety related. They had to create a joint team that violated jurisdictional requirements to proceed immediately to maintain safety or just to get the job done. So why does this benefit the union? Well, because otherwise the contractor operations would cease and losses would be high and the union would be low. There's also a duty to explain why. For example, after both the union and the contractor may have thoroughly investigated the case, if it is decided that no grievance exists, there is a refusal to challenge, it is both the union and the management duty to the worker and the union to state this, to take the time to explain. Okay, we want you to take the long view. Most grievances are to be viewed as systematic of underlying problems. Involved people must ask, how did we let this happen? Attempts should be jointly made to dispose of these problems and to prevent their future recurrence. Parties may use the scheduled grievance meeting time after the grievance itself has been dealt with to explore ways of improving both institutions, their general relationship, such as new employer plans, economic prospects for the individuals, etc. Okay, the court held that courts have held that in the absence of an express agreement that excludes arbitration as a disputed activity, it would direct the parties to arbitrate a grievance. Or more precisely, the courts will not decide that a dispute is not arbitratable unless the parties have taken care to expressly remove an area of labor relations from the arbitration process. But your agreement doesn't say that you are going to have arbitration as a means of settling dispute. The courts hold you're going to do it anyway unless you expressly require or state in the contract that you're not going to do it. Further, the arbitrator may dismiss the grievance as being without merit, but this duty rests exclusively with the individual arbitrator and not the courts. Union or management may not use the courts to set aside an arbitrator's decision, even if a judge believes an arbitrator's award is unfair, unwise, or inconsistent. That judge has no alternative except to enforce the award. If an employee loses a case in arbitration, the employee may still seek relief from the courts, provided that the civil rights were involved. These are good test questions, as you can well imagine. Courts have the authority to upset an arbitration award when a union commits a gross error representing employees in the arbitration process itself, or otherwise fails to live up to its arbitration responsibilities. Arbitration decisions are not final and binding when the Fair Labor Law or other statutory or constitutional rights are violated. But absent fraud by the parties or the arbitrator's dishonesty, the reviewing courts are not authorized to reconsider the merits of the arbitrator's decision. So in the long run, parties must have confidence in arbitrators' competency and integrity, because their decisions are almost always completely final and binding on the parties. So arbitrators must be in all ways above reproach. Should they fail in this respect, in the future, management and unions would simply delete the arbitration clause from their contract, state that they're not going to arbitrate, and resolve their disputes by strikes or going directly to court. These are unpleasant alternatives, but the parties may choose these routes in the future if they believe that arbitrators are not discharging their duties in an honorable, judicious, and professional manner. So arbitrators are as expendable as the last year's calendar.